Hi everyone, tonight I'm going to do a live review about mannequins, why you might want to buy one, how they work, and the different types you can get. I'm doing this live, so I'm going to wait a few minutes to see who is joining me, and then I'm going to do a review, and then I'm going to take any questions you might have. So let's see who's around and might join me, and I've already got some questions on from Instagram, so I'm gonna see what people want to find out. Maybe it's worth getting a mannequin. So I'm gonna hold on a few more minutes and see what happens. Then I will start the review. So let's see who wants to join me. So yeah, welcome to the live mannequin review. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes to see who joins me. Because I have just shared this on Instagram. So I'm hoping some more people will be able to come over here, which would be great. So I'm going to hold on a few more minutes. For those who are here already, welcome very much. Hi, Sharon. Hello. That's great that you can make it. Have you got a mannequin or not? It took me years to get one. I'm just going to hold on a second to see who else comes. If you're watching, just come in and say hello while we're waiting for other people. And then I will do a proper review of what mannequins are, what types they are, why you might want to get one. And then I will take any questions you have. I've already got some questions off Instagram, but you might have some while I'm talking. But let's see. Oh, you do, Sharon. Which one have you got? Which mannequin? Is it one of those? Or is it another one? Okay. So I'm going to wait one more minute and then I will get started. Yes, feel free, everybody who's watching, to just any questions you have, just throw them at me, and if I catch them while I'm talking, I will answer them. Otherwise, I will answer them at the end, or if I'm not making something clear either, which sometimes does happen. Okay. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the mannequin review. I'm going to look at all my reviews. So I've all my mannequins. I've got full-size mannequin, I've got half scale mannequins. These two are proper sample industry standard mannequins. And I've also got adjustable dressmakers mannequin, which is good for other reasons. And they all have a positives and negatives. And then I'm also going to look at other options you can try out. I'm going to start these two first because they're the ones I use the most. So they come in industry standard sizes. So they're actually not very helpful if you're making clothes for yourself because very few of us are an industry standard size. They're really what you use in the industry. I've got a size 12, I think, in both of mine, but a size 12 in realistically is actually a size 8 properly in real size because they are very tiny. What you really use them for, what they're great for, is when you're designing, is that they're fully workable. So these ones are just plastic with some sort of foam on top of it. So in these ones, you can sort of pin on, but they're not that secure. But proper industry sized mannequins, I'm going to show you what I used. So they should fit your blocks perfectly. The thing is, if you always work with the same one, you always know that whatever you make on your blocks will fit perfectly straight away. And what is great with these is that you can pin in and out. So they're really good for draping because you can just drape. You can pin on your fabric and it'll be really secure. They're actually, for beginners, they're quite hard because pinning on, you have to be really careful because what I actually used to use for my students is just shop mannequins, you know, the polystyrene ones, because they're great because you can pin into them. They're really cheap. So if you're just starting out, see whether any shops are getting rid of old mannequins, which they do quite often, and start out with something like that. But if you're serious, a proper mannequin is really good because you can pin into it. It's also got all the design lines. So this is already where your dart and fitting would go. It's got the side seam, it's got the base seams. So they are sort of, you can always, you got your shoulder seams, your fitted neckline. So they basically already, you could drape just on it and you get a complete moulage, or you could do your basic bodice block. But when you're fitting something, you can line up everything and make sure it fits. So they're great for that. They're also good because if you, for example, if you are working as a freelance designer, you should, in theory, go from studio to studio and everything fits. Practice, they have actually changed over time. So even if you're in a studio, if you have 5 from several decades, it will be all slightly different. But they are really good. I'm going to put on a 12 quickly. Choose a nice one. So what is great with these is if you put a trowel on and if you're working on your bodice block, everything will fit perfectly. And I had one question already from Instagram where somebody said, what's the point of getting a mannequin if you're working from our own measurements? And I get the point. I think that's where it gets a bit complicated. If you're a dressmaker, I would get one of these probably to start with because you can adjust them to sizes. Or you make your own, which are really good. But if you are basically either thinking about starting a label, if you're doing freelance work, if you're fashion design student, a pattern cutting design student, then sooner or later getting one of those is worth it because you can do all your draping, you can fit your trowels and make sure everything fits. I don't actually use this very much. I find these really good. And then that brings me to the small size mannequin. So I've only ever had one of these because I really like seeing how 12 works. But the half scale mannequins are really good for trying things out. So the reason I got it is because now I'm mostly doing tutorials, and if you're doing a technique and you could do it on half scale, it's much faster, it saves fabric, and it's quicker to stitch. So if I stitch something like this on a full size, it takes a meter of fabric. On a half scale, because let's talk about it quickly. This is a full scale, so that's I think it's something like 85, 60 something, 85 centimeters. But this is exactly half of it. And it always feels weird because it looks so much tinier, but because it's half in 3-dimensional, so in volume. So if you think it's basically shrunk to half. So it's half height, half width, and half depth. So it looks tiny, but it's actually exactly in a half scale. And it just lets you try on, if you're experimenting, if you're learning to pattern cut and you're trying out methods, or again, if you're a fashion design student and you're designing a collection and you just want to experiment, these are really good. And again, they work like a completely full-size mannequin. They're great for trying on trials. And again, you can also drape on them really easily. So they're great for that. And mine are both UK made. I think, you know, UK companies. This is UK made. This might be made somewhere else. But there's all other companies as well. There's Avalon, and I've just seen that Sharon, you've got an Avalon. So yeah, Avalon is if you on Instagram have a look at Project Pattern, she's just gotten an Avalon one. I think they're becoming the market leader. I think so, I might be telling untruths. But they are doing fantastically. Like they're doing full body, all the proportions are really good. But I think they're really expensive, and you can't. I'm not sure you can actually buy them at the moment as a layperson. But have a look at them. I think they're really great if you're in America. And then there's different companies. We all have different different countries have different companies do it. So I could Google, there's some in India doing it. If you're in the UK, there's Moreplan, there's K&L, and this is a new company, a fairly new. And the reason I bought it is, and there I'm going to show you a comparison. And I think the Avalon are slightly different as well. What's really interesting, this is a classic. This is a classic one, so it's got sort of quite an unrealistic bust line. Always they sort of come out and in again, and again it's got a very flat bottom, and you actually find that the older they are, the tinier they become. But they're always like, if you're actually doing really fitted stuff, if you fit it to here, it actually won't fit you because it's not a very realistic bust line at all. And these mannequins are designed and sold by my old pattern cutting teacher, and I didn't know it. I was just Googling half scale mannequins, and she started at a company just supplying all fashion courses in the UK. But because she's a really fantastic pattern cutter, I still use some of the blocks she made. She's actually put in the sort of panty line, and she's also got a really nicely fitted bust. Can you see? It's got quite a natural looking bust, and it's got a different seam underneath, which allows you to actually create a bust shape. So these, I think, hers will be really good for actually if you're making evening wear, bridal wear, anything fitted where you actually want to work off the mannequin. So if you're drawing on pattern, this tape, and then you're copying it off, which is a really good way of doing it. I can have a look in a second if I got some tape. I can show you how to do it. Then these will be really good because it should fit the sample size perfectly. Rather than these, they are sort of fitted, but they don't actually go with the natural bust line. So they're really good. And price-wise, they're incredibly expensive. And I think it's, as you said, Sharon, I think I'm going to share my screen. This is the one I've got, and it's about £140 for half scale, which is actually quite a good price because the K&L ones are even the half scale ones are £400, but you can see the full scale ones are 600. Oh, 600. Yes, you can get a cheaper one for £600. So they actually surprisingly affordable. And but that's I think these. I think if you're a fashion design student, or somebody who's got their own sewing business or wants to start up a label, and sooner or later it's worth getting one of these secondhand if you can. And these are really good if you're a design student. Get it for Christmas present or something. Just because it's so fast to design on here, and it's more it's easier because if you're working on a full scale one, it actually takes a lot of fabric. It's quite, if you're draping whole jackets and stuff like that, you have to you have all this excess fabric, you have to move around, and it becomes quite cumbersome. With something small like that, if you have half a meter of fabric or a little scrap, like even a fat quarter, you can actually start designing really easily. And it's like a much more practical size for designing. So I would definitely recommend one of those. And what's fantastic, because Jen, who makes these, and this is not advertising, I haven't told her I bought it, and they all come this blocks. And because she's beautiful, she does their real fit, and they have all the ease. They have the they got basic skirts, trousers, basic body sleeves. So you basically, you know how you make clothes for yourself, sooner or later you have to draft your bodice block. If you're really more into design rather than made to measure, then you can just buy one of these. They come with the block and you can sell. So these are the professional sort of studio mannequins I use. And then I'm going to have a quick look at this one. And I've had this for 20 years and I don't actually use it that often. What I like about it is I got it when I was in my late teens. What is quite good that you can actually adapt it. So I think there's a different sort of there's some for smaller sizes, some for bigger sizes. They're both in metrics and imperial, so that's quite good wherever you are. And I think they do it more or less in any country. And then you can basically make them taller or smaller, shorter, wider. You can change all the measurements, but there's still versions of a sample size. So you can't, for example, change the bust or the shoulder. Like you can make the shoulder a bit wider, but you can't actually make yourself wider. So I think they're quite a good starting point, but they have a limitation because they're still versions of the sample size. So they're basically like this, but a bit more adaptable. So you can get several dress sizes in them. But I've seen some people do like a layer you put on, padded layer you put on top, so you can get it exactly to your size. So that's a really good idea. If you, I think these are about £100, so $100. If you don't want to spend too much money, and you, even if you, for example, starting up independent label and you want to do a few sizes, you can actually buy one of those and you can change the sizes. You can actually see how it fits and how the details look on different sizes. So they're quite good for that. Saying that, I don't use mine that much, and I find them, they're basically, I don't think they're that useful for draping. They're okay, but they're quite tricky to actually drape stuff and see how something looks like. If you're sort of into draping and more conceptual designs, these are really good. But one of my lovely patrons, Ulrike, she sent me a link I wanted to share with you. Okay. Which is really good website, which I'm hopefully can now. Sorry, if I do like this. It's basically, I didn't know because I've always used industry mannequins for my stuff. I didn't know this existed, but can you see? It's called Bootstrap Fashion, and they're sewing patterns which come into your own size. This is an American company, but she said there's also some different companies. But what they basically have, DIY dress forms. And they got different sizes, full, male, female. And that is actually really clever. So if you're quite capable as a dressmaker, this is actually a really good idea. So they've got so you can basically create your own PDF pattern, make it up. And I think it is custom fit. So I think that is a really good idea. So if you're not 100% sure about spending lots of money, you have some time to actually create your own, that's the one I would go for, to try out and get everything fitted to your size, because I think that's I'm going to talk about negatives for a second. There's a few negatives. So one of them is, it's like, they're great for trying out, but they won't be your size unless you adapt them or you make your own, which takes a lot of time. So I think it's like, if you're making clothes for yourself, 90% of the time you can put them on yourself, and you can go in front of a mirror and you can take photos of your back. What mannequins are good for that is that if you're sort of looking for comfort, for fit, for the front, your own body is the best, because you can see how it actually feels and fit. But on your own body, you probably all know it's really hard to do your back. And that's where a mannequin is really good. And if you're roughly a mannequin size, whatever size that is, then getting one of those is really good, because you can drape things or do the back on things, and then you put them on yourself for the last trial. But you can sort of do the more complicated adaptations on the mannequin on the back, and then you can do the easier one on yourself with tiny sort of alterations. So they're good for that. But I think they're not that practical if you're, for example, just starting out and you want to make lots of different sizes, because they're quite expensive for what they are. So if you're starting out, fit on yourself and see how it goes. Use yourself as a mannequin. And what they're really good for is if you're studying fashion design, if you're thinking about starting a label, if you want to experiment as well. So if you're making clothes for yourself but you want to experiment, these are really good. Or if you're making clothes for other people as well. So for example, if you're a dressmaker, and you can get one of these and you can actually pad them out and adapt them each time so they fit each client sort of enough, so you can get a first trial for your first fitting. Or you can sort of roughly see how everything looks before you can put it on your client. So really good for that. The half scale mannequins are really fantastic for experimenting. But I already mentioned this when I did drafting diaries, project patterns with Kate. And it's the same issue with, the pattern magic books, the really amazing, these ones. And everything in there looks amazing, but it's half scale. So some of the designs, most of them will look really nice in full scale, but there's a few where you think, oh, on full scale, that might be slightly weird. And I think it's the same with the half scale mannequin, is that a lot of things, if you put a massive bow on it, it look adorable because it's really cute size wise. But if you then scale it up to a full size and you has a massive go, it's a bit too much Victor and roll and not bearable. And I think that's what you always have to be careful, is that you if you make clothes for yourself and they're sort of quite bearable clothes, then you always have to be careful, because on these you want to make things quite big, because of details disappear. For example, I'm just making a little sample. And Sharon, you might recognize this, what this is going to be. But the collar, can you see it's tiny on there? But because I've made a full-size sample, I know that it's the right height. But you might feel sort of used to making the collar bigger, and then it looks too big. So I think that's always quite the proportion with these to these is sort of you can become a bit too couture conceptual if you work on these, and then in a full scale it might not work. But otherwise, I love these. And I think they're great if you just want to experiment and don't want to spend lots of money. But so this is my review of these mannequins. Have any of you got any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to see a few questions of Instagram. I'm going to have a look at them quickly to give you some time to type. We're going to see if we've got any questions and then see. And I am planning to be more on YouTube again. So I'm just trying this out and see how it goes. And if people like it, then I'm thinking of doing it more often because it's quite a nice format. There's lots of space. With Instagram lives, there isn't that much space. Let's look. Yes, the one interesting question I had of Instagram was, there's lots of questions of where can I buy in this country? KNL you can buy everywhere. Avalon you can buy everywhere. I think these, they are mostly UK. They do ship everywhere, but at the moment this customs, the UK is probably not the best place to buy off. Because they're quite reasonably priced actually. I think it's just you have to see if you want all the customs and duties you have to pay on it. Oh, hi, Miss J. And I'm glad you like it on YouTube. I think it's a bit more space. Instagram is sort of, it can be quite crowded. And I think the quality is nice on here. I'm using my fancy phone this time as well. So it's got a better camera. Oh, Sharon, you've asked about an arm. And that's actually really good. And you're right, an arm is what I have to make next for both of these. And because it is actually really practical, because I think that's the problem. I'm going to put on the jacket again. If you have, there's actually some beautiful mannequins which have like a sort of little half arm, which always look really elegant and are really practical to see. Like they have collapsible arms, you can make them small to put your clothes on, and then you can make them big so you can see how things sit in the shoulder. So this is a really nice jacket. But can you see, because I haven't got an arm in here, it's actually really hard to see how it will drape and how it will fit. So I think arms, thankfully, Sharon, are really easy to make. There's lots of patterns online. Or you can even adapt your basic sleeve. You just make it tighter and you pad it out. I think whenever you make an arm, it's important that you make actually the width of your real arm and that you get the shoulder big enough, because I think often, for example, I've got quite a muscular shoulder and upper arm. So if I use a board pattern for arm or a ready-made arm, it will be too skinny for me, and then everything will be too tight. But I think an arm is really good to add on, and you can just pin them on, and they're really easy to make. There's lots of patterns. Oh, and that's another question. I need to figure out a good way to compress the chest just an inch. So Karen, is that one of those is it one of these, or is it like a foamy one, a polystyrene one? If you're thinking of making it smaller, I think if in polystyrene you could probably make it smaller. These you can't. These are really solid, and these you can't either. Yeah, but polystyrene. If you have a polystyrene one, just scroll up there, like to see what this said. Oh, you got an Avalon form. Oh, I didn't get that bit. Oh, lucky you. Oh yeah, foam. If it's all squishy, if you're feeling really brave, yeah, you could either just try an elastic and squish it in, or you could actually see whether you could, if your figure will probably won't change that area, you can actually see whether you can open it up. That's quite high risk, whether you can see whether there's a natural place where you can unpick it a little bit and actually take a bit out. Because these ones are just they're basically plastic with a little bit of foam on top. I mean, calico. So, for example, these you couldn't take anything out because the bust point is just pure plastic. But if they're both foamy, you could. Oh, and Miss J, the question whether the half scale is pinnable is really good. It is, which is why I chose it, because I think some half scale mannequins they always look like they aren't. Oh, this is a fully working fashion mannequin, so it's exactly like the same as this. So you can pin in. It's not like a polystyrene one, so you never used to tell my students off of this. It's a fancy mannequin, which is what this is. There's a fancy mannequin, there's a polystyrene mannequin, you can stab your mannequin. This these that will break your mannequin. So I've just done it. It's these, you always have to, you go into the fabric and then you push it out. So like you're pinning fabric. But yes, this is a fully working mannequin, which is why I loved it so much. Yes, and Sharon, it is, I would try an elastic first. You probably will be able to do it. Yeah, I wouldn't, I think it's, if you maybe Google whether there's any videos whether it is actually possible, but I wouldn't risk it, especially if it's such a nice mannequin and you can't buy it anymore. So yeah, try anything else first before taking it apart. And that's actually a really good point, is that in a way you can just, if you're working for different people, you can put on padding, or for yourself as well, if your body changes a bit for a reason, you can put on padding quite easily. But you always, in a way, you want to go with the mannequin which has your smallest measurements, because none of them, very few of us are identical. So go with your smallest measurements, because it's quite easy to pad it out, but it's impossible to, or quite tricky to make it smaller. Yes, and Anita says don't open the seam. I agree, because I think it's more trouble than it's worth. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have a quick look. I think the Avalon there, because some I've seen, they've got like a sort of cover you can take off, but I don't think the Avalon has. Yes, no, I wouldn't risk it, because they are quite fantastic. Yeah, see where you can compress it a bit first. And the other thing is that if it's only an inch, then I would actually think if it's really fitted, then you want to compress it. If it's slightly looser, with an inch, for a lot of styles, you can probably get around it. It's only if you're making like very fitted dresses that it won't look very nice. Yeah, but yes, I wouldn't risk it either, really. Okay, so are there any more questions? I hope you like this. I hope it was informative enough, because it's one of those things, I've used my mannequins for so long. If you're a complete beginner, I'm not sure I was informative enough. I hope I was. Actually, if you're a complete beginner, I would start with one of them. Yes. Oh, what I might do quickly is just talk about. Would you like to quickly see how you can actually, talking about really fitted dresses? Oh, actually, Anita is just suggesting a fabulous fit form, because I think that's the thing as well. When, like, sort of 10 years ago, the market there wasn't that much, but now it's actually so much stuff. Let's have a look at them. Oh, so yes. So if Anita, that's a fantastic idea. There's a website called Fabulous Fit Forms, and I think they're adjustable by the sense. Have I got it right? That sounds amazing. And you got different sizing and sort of padding, so you can do it with different sizes. So have a look at them. Fabulous dress forms, and how much do they cost? It's so very well hidden. Oh, they're quite affordable. So yeah, they're about £400. Yeah, they're US based. They do international shipping, but they're US based. But $400 is actually, is that for the US? For the UK, that's very cheap. Because I think these are over £1,000 now. I got mine second hand. And even the full size versions of this, which is more affordable, is about £600. So £400, $400 seems really great price. So that's definitely worth a look. So if you have no more questions, I'm gonna sign off. But thank you so much, everybody who joined me. It's lovely that some of you joined me because I have been on YouTube for ages. So it's nice to see some of you. And what I do is I've got, let me get my, this is not very professional. I'm getting out my calendar because I will be back in maybe next week or week after. And then I think I don't know how your summers are. And my summer's always a bit bonkers. But from September, I've got lots of plans. I have to write them all down. I'm hoping to be back every week with maybe different reviews, but also just sort of studio so along. So I might just, when I'm making stuff or drafting stuff, I might just turn the camera on, and you can ask me any questions related to the project, and it'll be always at the same time once I start again. But that's it for me for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, Sharon and Anita and Miss J and Sarah Anna. It was lovely to chat to some of you, and thank you much for joining, and I hope you liked this. If you did, if you give me a thumbs up, because that really helps with YouTube. But anyway, thank you for watching, and that's it for me. Have a nice day or good night.